Hello, everybody, and welcome to ABC Latino Media Network's Patria Grande. I am Enrique Roblonsky, and together with me,
Juan Carlos Pocho Salcedo, it's a pleasure to be with all of you.
welcome again. And today we continue this study about the idiosyncrasy of Latin America from a social, political, and economic point of view. And one characteristic of Latin America from all other regions in the world is the fact that in the last 40 years, Latin America had 10 women presidents of their countries.
10.
10. Some of them for two periods of government, unique in the whole world.
And that is probably the first shock because you see Latin America as a continent that is friendly to women. The word machista comes from Latin America. However, that is about to be, in our discussion, you're going to find out this is about to be maybe a myth in certain areas.
In certain areas, except for
Some others.
femicides. Yes, because Latin America is the region of the world, really, because of the characteristics of the countries. They are not the poorest countries in the world, but where more women die in the hands of men.
And that should be subject of
Another program. But what
let's
about
talk about the president.
yes? What about we go through this list of women presidents in Latin America?
Why don't we start with Argentina, where actually everything started?
Let's start with Argentina, that had the first woman president of Latin America, and we are talking about Isabel Martínez de Perón. Her life was closely linked to Juan Domingo Perón, who was president of Argentina for 3 terms, all of them democratically elected by the people of Argentina. In his third term as president, he dies, and in 1974, she assumes the presidency of the country. She was the vice president at the time. She assumes the presidency of the country, and she's brought down by a coup d'etat from the military just 2 years afterwards, in 1976.
And let's go from Argentina to a little bit north to Bolivia. Bolivia features two women presidents. The first one, Lidia Gueiler Tejada, who was president for interim president for a couple of years in 1979 to 1980, actually 1 year. And she was in the midst of issue having to do with the presidency, the elected president, Walter Guevara Arce, had to resign, and she became the president. And she was also deposed by a coup d'etat run by the army at that time. And she had a relationship with the United States because many of you perhaps remember Raquel Welch, is aunt of Raquel Welch, and they had a relationship over a period of time. That was the first president. The second president, woman president in Bolivia, just assumed in November of 2019. She, Mrs. Áñez, Janine Áñez, she is also in a transitory capacity until new elections are called, although she also is running for those elections. Elections going to take place in May of 2020.
Yes, and the interesting thing about Ms. Janes is the fact that she assumes the presidency of Bolivia in this interim where the former president leaves the country after a lot of protests explode in Bolivia, and with the complacency also of the military, who play a role in that exit from the country. But she had a role in Congress, correct?
Well, actually, at that point, something amazing happens. The president resigns, the vice president resigns, the president of the Senate resigns, who happened to be a lady, and then she is the next in line. In line.
And she assumes the interim presidency of Bolivia, and she calls for new elections. And we continue with this trajectory of women president in Latin America with Janet Rosemberg Jagan, who was president of Guyana, the Republic of Guyana. And Guyana is the only Latin American country that speaks English, having been part of the British Commonwealth until in 1961 it obtained its independence. And Janet Jagan was married to Jagan, who was the president elect of Guyana in 1992, when he dies while in government. And Janet Jagan, his wife, assumes the presidency of Guyana.
We go north to Nicaragua. Nicaragua has always been in the news in the United States. During the Reagan regime, we heard so much about the Contras, we heard so much about the Sandinista movement. And during that period, President Ortega now is running the country, and there's an election in 1990 where a very charismatic newspaper leader, Mr. Chamorro, had been slain a short period before, and his wife takes the flag, and she represents a democratic movement, and she runs in an election against Daniel Ortega, and she wins. That is the first time that a woman becomes president and is elected directly in Nicaragua. Violeta Chamarro, president of Nicaragua between 1990 and 1997.
Yes, that's true. And let's remember that Daniel Ortega, who leads the revolution really in Nicaragua, was going for his re-election.
For a change.
And he is defeated by Violeta Chamorro. An interesting thing also is that in Nicaragua, look at the terms, where in all the other countries the presidency is for 4 years and then there are new elections. In Nicaragua, she becomes president from 1990 to 1997. Okay, an interesting observation. And we continue from Nicaragua, we go to Ecuador. And in Ecuador, Rosalía Arteaga becomes the provisional president for 3 days in February of 1997. 3 days, and she's dismissed with the support of the army by the president of the Congress. Another interim woman president in Latin America.
And another military uprising as well.
And another military coup d'etat. Yes. Okay.
Well, then let's talk about Mireya Elisa Moscoso Rodríguez, president of Panama in 1999. She wins the election in Panama. And it is during her administration that finally all the process to return sovereign control over the Panama Canal goes from the United States to Panama, a process that was started by Jimmy Carter, and it is completed by Mireya Elisa Moscoso, first president of Panama, woman president of Panama.
Yes, and let's remember that she was the daughter of a former president of Panama, Arnulfo Arias Madrid.
Sure.
And she becomes a president in 1999, and that's her major achievement, really, is to recover the sovereignty of the Panamanian Channel from the United States.
Someday we should be talking about how that
the history of the Panama Canal,
because it wasn't an easy task, and it took so much courage from the part of the President of the United States and the President of Trujillo at the time.
Exactly, yes. And we continue now once again to Argentina, where Cristina Fernández de Kirchner became president of Argentina in 2007, and she was thereafter re-elected in 2011, serving for 2 consecutive terms. And the president of Cristina Fernández de Kirchner is very interesting because her husband, Nestor Kirchner, was also president of Argentina before her, from 2002 to 2006 or 2006, and she comes right in 2007. It's interesting because both of them started their political careers very young in life while they were both in the university. And then they were playing different roles in Argentinian politics, he becoming the governor of one of the different states in Argentina, in Patagonia, and then climbing positions, both of them, until getting to the presidency. Cristina Fernández de Kirchner was also a congresswoman and a senator in the Congress of Argentina before becoming president.
Cristina is somebody who had her own political career, intense political career, very visible political career. She is a heroine for many, and she's exactly the cry for many other. She has endured a tremendous campaign against her, but she also has a group of followers that have benefited from the social changes that she has helped implement.
Yes, let's remember that during her presidency, for example, Argentina was the country of Latin America that has the lowest poverty rate on all of Latin America, and the highest salary per capita. One of her achievements was precisely to be able to create an economy that a mobile economy where the lower classes were able to grow and become middle class, so that society could move along what is the American dream also over the years, where everybody that works hard can make it. During those years, everybody that was working hard in Argentina could also make it and grow through the economic ladder. The other achievement of her was that introduced some laws, the same-sex marriage and the equality of genders in society, something that was first not only in Latin America but also around the world.
On the other side of the equation, tremendous allegations of corruption, which has been plaguing her career for many years with accusations. She hasn't been judge, doesn't have judgment for any of those, but that is what the opposition has done.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very with a very strong opposition against her, particularly, and her government.
Well, we'll talk about now Costa Rica. Costa Rica in in 2010 elects her first woman president, Laura Chinchilla. Laura Chinchilla had been vice president to Oscar Arias Sanchez, and then on her own in February of 2010, she won an election, and she was the president of Costa Rica from 2010 to 2014, Laura Chinchilla.
Yes, and from Costa Rica, we go to Brazil, where Dilma Rousseff was president of Brazil in 2010. She followed the government of Lula Inácio da Silva and became the president for one term. And she was also fought against or combated by the opposition, by the media. And let's remember that, in a sense, when she was going to present herself for re-election, she's ousted really by the opposition. Again, with the accusations of corruption in her government, which precluded her from going for re-election.
Correct. Now, being in the southern part of Latin America, we talk now about Chile. Chile had as president for 2 terms Michelle Bachelet. Michelle Bachelet comes from a family that was involved in politics for a long time. As a matter of fact, her father, Alberto Bachelet, who was supporter of Salvador Allende in the coup led by Augusto Pinochet, he gets incarcerated and dies while in jail. And then, as Chile comes back to a formal democracy, Bachelet is elected not only once, but is elected in two opportunities, and today she is the High Commissioner of Human Rights of the United Nations, which, by the way, the first High Commissioner of Human Rights for the United Nations was Ecuadorian. I don't recall exactly the name, but the first one that created that operation was an Ecuadorian.
Interesting fact that we'll look up for another program. And another interesting fact is that these 3 women, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner in Argentina, Michelle Bachelet in Chile, and Dilma Rousseff in Brazil, were president at the same time, directing the destinies of 3 very important countries of the southernmost tip of Latin America.
Now, in a region, you're talking about from Rio Grande all the way to the tip of Patagonia, where people normally refer as machista society, we just talk about 10 female presidents.
Several of them re-elected more than once.
Amazing.
An interesting fact, but at the same time, several of them who were ousted by military juntas. An interesting story full of dynamics of Latin America. And in this way, we end up today's program. This has been ABC Latino Media Network's Patria Grande. Till the next time.
Till the next time.